Right. It's day 2, right? That we've been here?
Yes.
Okay. How'd you sleep last night?
I slept better. I had some weird nightmares that woke me up, but I was able to go back to sleep. I had opened the window to cool the room down. I like sleeping when it's like 55 degrees in the room.
Yeah.
But pretty good. How about yourself?
I slept pretty well, but I was hot. I was definitely warm. It's not super hot. I mean, it's so much cooler than it is in Longmont here. It's like 20 degrees cooler. But yeah, I realized I'm a little warm and I couldn't quite modulate the heat properly. And I missed my chili pad. Like I only got like 15 minutes of deep sleep last night. And usually it's like 2 to 3 hours. So I feel fine. I mean, I slept, we went to bed pretty early and everything. So yeah.
One issue with this place is I think they have the memory foam mattresses. And in my experience, those things trap heat and cook you. So I hate them.
Yeah. And like if I need to be under the blankets a little bit, but if I get out too much, then I get cold. So anyway, did opening the window work pretty well for you? Or?
Yeah, I think it did. You still trap heat under there, especially if you're laying on your back. And like you, I need a blanket too. So it's a weird phenomenon where you're cooking, like half your body's cooking the part that's touching the mattress and the other part is cold. So it drives you a little nuts. But yeah, I've almost thought if I had to go somewhere for a long period of time, I would pack the chili pad and take it with me. It doesn't take up that much space.
Yeah, we were thinking about, like, we're going to Georgia for 3 weeks and we're like, maybe we can bring that stuff. Well, I wasn't thinking of it, but Elizabeth just ordered a new sleep cooling device and she was like, maybe we could bring it. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So let's talk about the book stuff. We got some information from MK Williams. I don't know her super well. We interviewed her early in the show, but she helps self-publishers and she's done a lot of work with Choose FI and many other people. But do you know her pretty well?
Probably better than you have. I've probably talked to her 3 or 4 times in real life, like at events like FinCon, but not super well. I know that she's good. Okay.
Awesome. So I sent over an email asking about timeline and expectations and other stuff like that. We teased in the last video. So today we're going to talk about it a little bit more. She got back to us pretty darn quick. And she said it's often a 1-year timeline to edit, rewrite, edit more, proof, format, and design it. So, and that doesn't even include the marketing. So 1 year. Now, what did you think when you got the email back?
I was surprised by that timeline. I thought it would take us, I didn't think it would be a stretch. Back up a second. I thought it would be a stretch to have out this year, but I thought that could have been a possibility as well. But the thing I'm not really familiar with, Doug, is the editing process. Like, I guess it's going to go through multiple edits and I don't know how long that takes her to do, but I thought we would have it done in about half the time, she said.
Yeah, I thought so too. And stepping back, like away from the details a little bit, and I'm like, I was thinking, oh, it'd be cool to get it out this year when we first started talking about it. But as the year has gone by and it's already like July and blah, 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 I'm thinking like the first quarter of next year at the earliest. And the other thing is like, we wouldn't want to like try to launch something in like the retail, like November, December timeframe, I don't think. So that kind of opens it up and then we could just kind of push it forward to Q1 of next year.
Sure. It will be the ultimate stocking stuffer for Christmas 2024.
Right. Yeah. And you'll have all year to get it. So the editing, yeah, I'm not sure how that will go either. I've done just a little bit of longer form writing, but usually once I have something down, I don't change it in a major way. So what's the sort of longest thing that you've written?
Yeah, Doug, and I'll back up a second. I have a confession before I answer that. I was a little bit nervous coming up here because one thought I had is I've never done longer form writing before. I think the longest thing I've ever written is probably, like in my recent history, maybe 1,000 words, like a long blog post. And before that, maybe some shit for high school English class. And that was a long, long, long time ago. And it's a lot different, right? It's 1,000 words or 500 words is pretty easy to write because those words just stand alone by themselves. And here, all the words, you could have a great chapter, but that chapter has to relate to all the other chapters. And I was looking at the outline yesterday. I'm like, wow, I'm going to have a lot of overlap. So I think it's a lot harder. What was your original question? What's the longest I've ever written? Or yeah, probably 1,000 words. And one of the thoughts I had coming up here, I'm like, shit, what if I actually can't do this? And what if we've got this place? And after 2 days, I have to tell Doug that I can't do it. I just don't feel competent enough to do it. And after yesterday, I do feel like it will work. I think it's a little bit more work because I've got a lot of thoughts, but they're all disparate. So getting all those parts together to the sum, I think, will be the more difficult part probably. And I suspect that's where MK might help us a little bit more. How about you, Doug? What's the longest thing you've written?
So I think I've done, in 2013, I wrote an ebook, and it was on affiliate marketing, and it was about 100 pages or so. So I have done a 100-page book, and I've done several, probably say 5 to 14,000 word blog posts. Sometimes it's separated into a couple parts just because that's a little bit long. Some books are, 14,000 words. So I've done more long form writing more recently, I guess, although it's been a while. And exactly what you're describing is where we may need to, I don't know when we should do it, but part of my project management and all that, where I kept saying oh, we got to make sure we get the outline in the best shape we can because we don't want to duplicate work, right? So we should probably, I don't know if it's today or if you're oh, I want to write right now, but that is something where we may look and say, oh, this is a duplicate thing that you've mentioned elsewhere or that it fits in another spot. So it's a lot more complicated, right? Instead of 1,000 words, you can see it in a couple pages, right? You just scroll back and forth. But this is multiple fucking documents with multiple people working on it. So it's what did you write in that section? And what did I write in a section where they relate? Or maybe it's the same topic and we didn't even realize that we were going to both cover it. So yeah, that'll be a hard part or a hard thing to manage over, where we're going to end up with more than 100 pages with a first draft and identify those okay, what do we do with it? Where does it need to go? So I don't know. We'll figure it out, I guess, but it'll just be a lot more to deal with than a blog post.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. It definitely will take a little bit of work. I think kind of answering your question, I'd like to get a little bit more written and then we meet up and start going over stuff. I think the outline's pretty good. I think that was a great idea. And I think you came up with a great outline. And I don't think we're going to be walking over each other much. But yeah, let's get some more done and then we'll reconcile it all.
Okay. We have some tips from MK2. So one thing that she mentioned is we need to think about what the reader will know after reading it. And who is the reader? Now, luckily, I must have, through osmosis, I knew that in the beginning, in the intro section, we should put what you're going to learn. Hey, here's what we want to show you in this book and who the reader is. So there's often a section, I enjoy those books where they say, here is who will get the most out of this book. Here is who the book is for. So I think I wrote some stuff in that section. I don't know. Have you read over that part or have any thoughts on who and what we're doing here?
I have not read over that part, but I think it's a great thing to have. I think it helps sell the book too, because people are going to pick it up and look at that and say, oh yeah, it applies to me. I'll buy it.
Right. And I think, one thing we both know is we're not trying to write it for everyone. So clearly there's a target audience and we'll have to make sure we cover it well. But yeah, there's a sliver of people that it'll work out well for. And then others will be especially maybe people earlier in their career, there's not as much stuff that's relatable. probably only like one section because we're going to have 3 parts of the book basically. So, okay. Yeah, we'll have to sort that out a little bit. And then that'll be one of the most critical spots for you or for both of us to contribute to it. So we make sure it's like, here's what we're teaching, or here's what we're going to try to communicate at least. Okay, cool. Have you thought about that very much though?
I have a little bit, and it gives me a little bit of anxiety because all 3 parts are kind of different. They're sort of interconnected, but they're pretty loose, I would say. So there's like part 2, what you're working on might be super applicable to some people. And part 3, which is a little bit more philosophical and happiness and that kind of stuff, I guess that might apply to someone else. But I think we can tie it all together, and I don't think there's any reason why one thought I had was, well, should this thing actually be different books? And I don't think so. I think we can have enough in there to tie it together to make it flow. And the other thought I had is people might buy it just for one of the sections.
Right.
It's going to be cheap. This isn't going to be expensive. And I'm trying to think of a book I've purchased that I just bought for one section. I guess it might be a little bit strange. Have you ever done that? Like bought a book and just read one part of it?
Nothing comes to mind, but so the 3 parts, it's the working title or the working section title. So laziness for the individual, laziness at work, and laziness like either after retirement or when you have more free time. I don't know what we call the last one, but that's the general idea, like after retirement. I understand your concern, but I think we're totally fine because the last section, you can start doing those things anytime. And in fact, it's much better if you start doing those things before you retire because you can't just like flip a switch and like have all these skills. So you need to start working on it, years before you retire, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. And I think we should make that point very early in the book, maybe in the who is this book for, like that. Like the book almost needs a section, and maybe this is in that section, like how you should use this book or how you should read it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That should go in there too. Okay. Very good. And another tip MK gave us, or she gave 3 major tips here. So, or maybe 2.5. So biggest tips, have a great outline. So she's, re-emphasizing my point, like, hey, let's get this fucking outline tight because we don't want to write something that we're going to throw out. We will throw out a lot, but we don't want to like run in the wrong direction. And to write words, right? So tip 2 is write words. So get an outline and then write. She says, you can edit a bad page, but you can't edit a blank page. So I think we're pretty good at like doing some work and executing. So when I stop recording our progress, twice a day, we'll actually be able to get even more work done. So, all right, cool. Yeah. And any thoughts on her other tips or email and stuff that she sent?
Yeah, I think it will be a good fit. I've never done anything like this, but I know MK is a super cool person too. So I think we chose right. She came recommended? Maybe it was JL Collins. I don't remember who recommended her, but she came highly recommended from people who I have a ton of respect for. So I think it's going to be good.
Cool. Yeah. And I can't remember. I remember seeing a recommendation too. They were like, oh, yeah, you should work with MK. But she's helped a lot of people in our space publish their books. Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but anyway, doesn't matter. Awesome. Anything else before we get rolling here? Yeah.
So this is our last full day, Doug. And the other thing, we were joking around about this before. I think we were joking offline about it. That you joined the SIP Club at Panera Bread and go there to write. What time are you usually there at?
It's been kind of all over the place, but usually in the window of 10 a.m. to maybe 3 p.m. And I usually only go for about an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay. Yeah. When you go, if you don't mind, I think I'd like to join you. That will motivate me to get out of the house. And I like those hours too, because I usually use like 8 a.m. to do outside work before it gets too hot. And the other suggestion I had, Doug, was it comes with free food, the Costco food court. We can go there, set up shop. Might have to bring an extension cord, and then we could just, like, we'll get there at 9, and then the samples start showing up at 11. We could just do a lap around Costco and get some taquitos and whatever else they're offering that day. If we're feeling good about shit, we could buy a hot dog and get, like, the frozen yogurt, whatever they have there.
That sounds delicious. Yeah. Yeah, the Sip Club's great. They actually have, like, if you haven't signed up before, they have a 2-month free trial. So you can get soft drinks there. I almost never order. The food is fine, but it's kind of expensive. Like, it's a little too expensive for what it is, I think. Because you could get, I'm not afraid to spend the money, folks, but you can get a better thing at the same price somewhere else. And that's why it's like, I don't know, would you get something from Panera versus like a local spot in town where like maybe it's higher quality food, but it's very rare I get the food there. I just go in there and drink. That's it. Bring my laptop. A lot of people work in there. Have you ever passed through and walked in?
I have. It's mostly been at night, but even then I see people there with laptops open.
Yeah. So that sounds good. Yeah, we can get a lot done, and it's just, random from when I like have free time and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go over there. So, but usually those core hours when I'm most awake and alert and ready to do some stuff. And then the caffeine helps, of course. So
yeah. We could also go to the HQ, the library. The HQ might be kind of fun, although sometimes you get distracted there by other people.
Yeah, people. I've never actually done much work in there. Have you?
A little bit now and then. You have to put headphones on, or some people are chatty, and then you go in there to get work done, and then you get nothing done.
Yeah, and I think the last couple of times I had something I could do, but basically I never took my laptop out and just like chatted with random different people. So, I mean, that was the purpose of me going in there. So it worked out all right. Very good. All right. So we'll get to it. We'll record another update at the end of the day. What section are you writing today?
I think I might I'm going to look over real quick what I did yesterday. I was working on section 1, but today I think I might jump to section 3. I like going back and forth and putting lots of comments in so I know what I need to work on and what I need to add to. But yeah, I think section 3, and then I'm thinking maybe our afternoon recording, we start talking about other timelines on when we think we might be able to get to MK and stuff like that.
Cool. Awesome. My other big section to take a look at is the conclusion. So luckily we have a lot of stuff in the outline, so I know what to put in there. And it'll just be obviously a little summary and next steps, that sort of thing. But I may look at the outline. Obviously, I'm so fucking concerned about the outline. I'm like, outline. So I'll take a look at it and see if I could identify any specific things that we need to pay attention to. I was reading Do Nothing by Celeste Headley earlier this morning while I was sitting in the sauna. There's a sauna here. It's nice. So I was taking a look. There's actually a couple sections, a couple chapters. They read very quick. Did you read the book?
Yes.
Okay. There's a couple sections at the end that really emphasize like taking breaks, and like there are studies referenced that mention the most productive people work like this was a specific study, but 10 to 20 hours per week, working 2 to 5 hours per day. They had the highest production in this study versus people that were putting in more time. In fact, the people that were putting in like more than 40 hours, their production was much, much lower than anyone else's. So super interesting. And I think it fits in maybe a little bit in part 2, but maybe in part 3 also, because I know you cover a lot of things about like just taking some time off, right?
Yes.
So those are some spots. And I was like, oh, I underlined, and like there's a bunch of shit in that section that maybe you take a look at before you write some of the stuff. But I don't want to get in the way of your writing process either. So Do you remember those sections at all? Or-
thinking back, I think I made it through the first 2/3 of the book, and then we went on vacation, and I returned it to the library. So I need to go back. You said that was towards the end, so I don't remember that. But I've read stuff like that before. Does that apply to a specific type of work? Because I can definitely see that for creative work, which is like you can mow lawns all day long. That doesn't matter. Your limitation is your physical stamina. But creative stuff, you can only do so much of that, and then your brain just feels like knocked out, knocked down.
Yeah, the latter. I think logically we all know, like if you're painting houses or cutting grass or whatever, you can't get more done in 2 hours versus 8. You could get more done in 8. So yeah, it's the brain is holding us back. Yeah. So it's mostly like knowledge work or office work or blah, blah, blah.
Cool.
So, but I have the book. I purchased it. So we have it in the other room. So I could pass it along to you if you want to take a break and you get bored, or you don't have to, no pressure. You do whatever you want to do. So, but we have it here, and they read quick. So when you do want to take a break, check it out.
Cool. I'll probably buy it too. One of the things I like to do now is just buy books to support authors and then pass it on.
Yeah. They're so cheap for how much like information's in there.
Yeah. Someone spent thousands of hours on this thing and I get it for like $8. Like,
yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's get to work.
Cool. See ya.